Hello, and welcome to this episode of Simply Saturday. Simply Saturday is my weekly series that hits every Saturday, and I bring you a card that is fast and easy to make. That is what we're going to do today. My name is Julie, and this is Stamp with Julie Baum. Thanks for joining me here today. I am an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up, and I have been doing this for over 30 years and enjoy it probably more today than I did when I started. So let's talk about today's card. We are going to use some simple elements. We are going to do one little fancy thing to dress it up a little bit. I think you're going to really like it. Let me mention that we are making a love or Valentine's type card once again using the Endless Love stamps. And there are coordinating dies to this, although we are not using any of the dies today, just the stamps. We are using the 12 by 12 pack of designer series paper. There's a bunch of different prints in here. This is called Made with Love. The label on the package of paper tells us the colors that are used in the paper, and based on that, I've chosen to use Real Red and Bubble Bath today. So we're starting with a card base that is 5.5 inches by 8.5. I've already scored it down the center at 4.25 to create our fold, and this is how our card will open and shut. Then I have a piece of white cardstock. This piece is 4 inches by 5.25 inches. It's going to be the inside panel for our card. I have another piece of white cardstock. This piece is 3.75 inches by 5 inches. That's going to be a layer on the front. Our designer series paper measures 3.25 inches from left to right, so across, and 4.5 inches tall. All right, you will also, when you choose your piece of designer series paper, you'll want to make sure that you like both the front and the back pattern because we are going to see both. Now, let me mention that here in another couple weeks, you're going to see a video that is a very similar layout to today's card. However, I'm going to be changing it up a little bit. This will be a card that we're making at Stamp Club in January of 2026. And we are going to do some extra things to it. We're going to do some die cuts. There will be a surprise on the inside of the card. So it will look similar at first glance, but it will be a whole video with a different card. So be sure and look for that here in a couple weeks. All right, I took a scrap of real red cardstock and I used circles from, let me tell you these dies. These are ones that every person should have if you're a crafter. You really need, right now, I would say there's two sets of dies you cannot go forward without, and that's the Stylish Shapes dies. That's what I'm using today, and I'm using the largest, not the largest, the second to the largest, and then the next one down, those two dies. The other set of dies that just seems to be super important to have are Nested Essentials, which I used in last week's episode. All right, so I used those dies on a scrap of real red and cut that larger circle out. And I used this one on a scrap of white cardstock and cut that out. All right, so aside from that, you're going to get to see all of the steps here. Now, if you don't have those dies, you could certainly use punches, a larger and a smaller circle punch, or really any shape. You could use hearts or you could use a square or a banner shape, but you are going to want to nest these. All right, before we work on this piece, which is going to be our focal point, let's do our stamping on this white circle. All right, so what I'm going to do this time is use this cute heart. It's kind of a dual heart that it kind of interlocks. You'll see when I stamp it. It's very cute. We're going to put a bubble bath heart right here on our circle, which pretty much fills it, like so. And then the Hugs and Kisses stamp with real red ink. And we're just going to center that right there over our heart. All right, that I would say is fast and easy. Now we'll set that aside and let's take out this piece that we're going to use for the inside. Now what I did on this one to make it a little bit faster is I pulled the happy, the Valentine's, and the day stamps, and I combined them all onto one block. So this is now going to stamp in one step. All right. If you don't want to do that, you can certainly mount them on separate blocks and stamp them separately. I'll use my real red ink to do this. And this is going to go right here, kind of at the top third of the card. And it's going to fill it right to left, like so. All right, now if we want to, we can add some other hearts. Let's go ahead and do that. We have a small heart in those stamps. And I think with some bubble bath ink, that is going to finish the inside. So let's put a couple of those hearts in here. All right, there's the inside. We can go ahead and put that into place. All right, then we're going to come back to our designer series paper. And at this point, you are going to need your paper trimmer. So there we have that in place. Now, for this, we need our paper trimmer. Let's take our ink pads and just set them out of the way and bring in the trimmer. We're going to make 2 cuts on our piece of paper. It's not hard to do, but you'll want to follow along. You also might want to have either a little post-it note handy, or I'm going to be using this, which is some low-tack artist tape. It's not required. You can do the steps without it, but I do think that it makes it a little bit easier. So if you want to grab that now is the time to do that. All right, so we've got our rectangle here of designer series paper. What we're going to do is make a diagonal cut this way and a diagonal cut this way. So in order to do that, I'm going to lay my paper right here into the trimmer. I'm going to make sure that this corner is lined up with the groove. And I'm going to come down here at this bottom corner and make sure it's lined up with the groove as well. So I want this and this lined up with the groove. Now, what I can do is push this up just a teeny bit, and this portion of the paper trimmer will kind of help hold it a little bit more still. So if you want to do that, you can, but lining it up right in the groove is the most important part. All right, we're going to let that go. This is my scoring blade that I need to actually move out of the way gently. There we go. And now we're going to cut. All right, so I'm going to open this. This is where this optional step comes into place. I have now cut the paper right there. And what I'm going to do is just take a little piece of tape, or you could use a post-it note, holding those 2 sides together. I'm just going to stick it together. Now, if you do that, it makes turning the paper just a little bit easier because you're not turning 2 pieces that are separated. This is just kind of holding it together, because now we're going to angle it this way. Put this corner up here lined up with the groove, this corner down here lined up with the groove, and we're going to cut. All right, at that point, we can move our trimmer out of the way. These are stuck together because the tape. Then you've got these 2 pieces. We're just going to keep those here on the desktop and move our trimmer out of the way. Okay, bring in that smaller piece of white cardstock that we had prepped. You can remove your Post-it or your tape. And now we're going to take this top triangle and the bottom triangle, and just exactly in the position that they already are, we're going to glue them here to our white piece. So right now I'm just going to do a dry fit. I'm going to lay it on right where I think it needs to go, and this one as well. Then we're going to take these two triangles and we're actually going to flip them over. So this is where you're going to see the back side of the paper, and it's going to go over here. And let's flip this one and it's going to go here. There's our dry fit. Gives us an idea where we're headed. Now we can use our liquid glue to go ahead and put these in place. I did the same design on some Christmas cards that I sent out back in December. And I did take a photo of the card. So you might have seen that on Facebook, maybe in a reel or just in a post. And if that caught your eye and you were wondering how to get that triangle look, now you're getting that answered. So you can obviously change up your paper and your colors to get different looks. All right, when I'm putting this second one down, I'm lining up a couple of things. So I'm looking at my spaces here and here to see if they're somewhat even, if my points are pointing directly together. Now, you could actually have them touching if you want to. I'm going to leave a little bit of space in mine. I just prefer that look. And then we're going to bring in the side pieces, and same thing. I'm going to leave a little gap between the papers, and I'm going to watch my spacing. Okay, and we're going to get that one glued on. If you've been watching me for any length of time, you know that this last year in 2025, we started having some trouble. I didn't change anything on my end with my recording equipment or my process, but every now and then a video here on YouTube would all of a sudden be really, really quiet, and you'd have to turn your volume up. Of no fault of mine, and it wasn't consistent. It would just kind of happen sometimes. So anyway, as that continued to get more and more frustrating, as well as a recent iPhone update was also causing my phone, which is how I'm filming, to keep pausing. I believe it had an issue to do with, and I'm not going to say her name, but it starts with S. And when you talk to her, she is a little assistant on your phone. So it would pause right in the middle of my recording for no reason at all. So, anyhow, my last two videos have had some new equipment, some new processes, and I'm hoping that it's better on your end for your listening and viewing pleasure. You can let me know. Those are in place, and look at how cool that is. You get to see two sides of our paper. We've got that nice diagonal look, and that is very pleasing. All right, let's take that and attach it to our card front. If you would want to, you can attach this piece with some dimensionals if you want it to be popped up a little bit. Again, at Simply Saturday, we are going for fast and easy. So we'll just put it flat and call it good. All right, we're going to take our circles. I'll attach my white one to the red one. And then since I did not do any layering with my dimensionals, I'm going to go ahead and attach this red circle with some. All right, so let's add these. Pop that onto our card. And then we'll see if we think that we might need any rhinestones or something. There we go. Did I get them all? They were sticking to my fingers. Okay. This now is going to go right here in the center, which is kind of nice because if for some reason you didn't get this quite exact, quite as nicely as you wanted to get it, this is going to cover it up and kind of camouflage that. So, all right, there we have that. Now, I'm going to pull out my rhinestones, and I am going to show you one fun little trick because we have a moment. So what I'm going to do is take my real red Stampin' Blend, and I am just going to color right on to the rhinestone. I'm going to do this on 3 of them. Notice I'm doing it while it's on the backing sheet. I recommend that you don't attach your rhinestone to the project and then color, because if the marker goes anywhere off of the rhinestone, it's going to make a mark on your paper. So do your coloring while it's still attached to its backing sheet. And then we'll go ahead and slide this off. I can grab it with this end. And let's see here. I think I want one right there. And maybe just one on the white. And we'll do one up there and one down here. You can decide where you want them, but it's kind of fun to be able to color your plain rhinestone gems with your Stampin' Blends and create a colored rhinestone. So there we have it. There might be a little bit of ink still on there, so I'm going to be really careful. Let's see. I have a scratch paper here. I'm just going to press it that way, like so. And there we have a cute, fast and easy Valentine card made with our triangles of designer series paper. Super fun. And do watch here in a couple weeks for the fancier, a little bit harder version that we're going to do for Stamp Club. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, happy stamping.